Hi, this is Tom Soane and welcome to another episode of the Anonymous Landlord. And today I'm going to talk through a really good topic. This is a great topic to talk about because this is the fun part, right? Making an offer through an estate agent and being more likely to get those offers accepted. Because that's what we all want, right? If we're investing in a property, whether we're looking to keep it and rent it out, we want to make sure we get loads of those offers accepted. And we're only going to do that if we're working through estate agents or we're making offers through estate agents. We can only increase our chances of getting those offers accepted if we follow a few simple rules. So I want to share that with you because, look, I've been an agent for 21 years now and I've owned my own agencies now for 10 years. I've got sales, an estate agent, I've got 2 letting agents. So I've done all of the selling and the negotiating, and I've trained teams to sell and negotiate. I've trained property investors to make offers. And I'm also a property investor myself, and a property sourcer and a deal packager. So I've done this from all angles, so to speak. So I'm going to start with the most important tip. The one that's going to make you most likely to get that offer accepted and more likely to, more likely to get more deals from that estate agent too. But first, we need to remember a fundamental rule here, that the estate agent doesn't work for you, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer. Now, I know that sounds harsh, and a lot of people do expect a lot from an estate agent, even though they're not paying them any money, because the buyer doesn't pay the estate agent normally, right? It's the seller that pays the estate agent. So technically, the estate agent's loyalty and dedication needs to be for the seller. That's the way it should be done. And of course, the agent wants to get the highest price possible for the seller, but you as the buyer, you want to get it at a price that's going to make you profit. So I'm going to start with the most important tip, as I've said. And we're assuming now that you found a property through an estate agent, you've done your calculations and you've calculated your true investment and your true yield. And if you need some help with calculating that, on my podcast, The Anonymous Landlord, I did an episode, I think it was a week or 2 ago, about true yield, true investment, and all the calculations that you need to follow. Or just give me a shout, I'll help you out with that. So we found a property, and we've got to start with the most important tip if you're about to make an offer to the estate agent. Number 1, and I think let me see how many tips I've got here. I've got 11 tips for you. Some of them are quick, some of them are slightly more detailed. But the most important one, in my opinion, bearing in mind I'm an agent, is to start by sharing your calculation with the estate agent. And I'd be really keen to hear from any other agents that are watching this, right? If an investor comes to you and they make you an offer, of course they're going to want the property for as low a price as they can get it. Wouldn't it help you, Mr. or Mrs. Estate Agent, if you could see how the investor has calculated their offer, right? So, but you as the investor, you need to calculate the refurbishment cost and how you've calculated it, your stamp duty, your legal costs, and all of those sorts of things. And then give the estate agent how you've calculated your gross development value, your GDV, or that's the job done value. Once you've refurbished a place and added some value, how much have you calculated that property is going to be worth? And here's a little side tip. Ask the agent for their opinion and respect their opinion. But also share with the agent the profit margin that you intend to make. I know that sounds crazy. And there's so many property investor trainers that are probably saying right now, no, don't tell them how much profit you're making. Yeah, tell them the profit. You're an investor. You are entitled to make profit. So share that with the agent and I'll tell you why. Also, oh, by the way, share the yield that you're targeting. If you're going to rent this property out, then share the yield that you're targeting with the agent. So we're going to share all the calculations with the agent, the purchase costs, the refurbishment costs and how you've calculated it, what needs doing and how much you need to spend, your gross development valuation for the end of that, and also the profit margin you're making. Why? Because it gives the agent some evidence to go to the seller with and present and say, hey, I've got an offer for you. Great news, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. I've got an offer for you. It's from a really good buyer who knows their stuff and they're reliable. They're going to move quickly. And this is how they've calculated their offer. They've calculated that you need to spend £15,000 on this property, and they're going to have to spend £5,000 on stamp duty, and they're going to have to spend £2,000 on legal costs, and they're going to have to spend whatever. But their offer is very fair. They're an investor, so they need to make a profit, and this is how much they've offered to you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Think of that from the agent's point of view. Much easier to do. And that is actually tip number 2. Think of all of this from the agent's side. If you put yourself in their shoes, they've got to go to the seller with an offer. Now, weirdly enough, I don't understand this, but sometimes sellers blame the estate agent for low offers, or they criticise the estate agent for low offers. It's really weird. It's a very weird industry. And actually, are any agents watching, by the way? Have I got any agents with me now? Or has anyone made any offers through agents? Just give me a yes in the comments below if you have. But yes, so think about it from the agent's point of view. So if they're going to go to the seller and present an offer, but with nothing more than the offer, then they've got their work cut out for them. No evidence, no information, no workings. What do you think is the owner's likely response if someone just comes in and says, right, the property's on the market for £100,000 and this investor has offered 75? What do you think they're going to say? Seller's probably going to say no. Probably. Now, there's no one rule for everything, right? You're not going to do one little tip here and that's going to make all of your offers accepted. But what we've got to do is increase our chances, right? That's what all of this is about. You do all of these things and all of the training and advice I give you, do all of them, you're going to increase your chances of success. So, give the estate agent your workings, of course. Think about all of this from their side. Give them the evidence to work with. But also, it gives the seller something more to think about. Now, you might give them all the evidence of how you calculated this offer, and they might not say yes now. But let's say that seller is on the market for 3 months, and people keep giving them the same offer or the similar offers, and then they've got something to think about with you. They know now that there's this amount of work that he's doing, this amount of cost that he's doing. An investor's going to buy the property and want to make this amount of profit. So that it just plants that seed. And then a bit later down the line, if the property hasn't sold, they're more likely to come back to you. But also the agent is more likely to come back to you as well, because you're the one that's been open and transparent with them. Now, the next tip number 3, is quite an obvious one, but I want to explain it. Don't be greedy. Be fair and be profitable. Now, there is a way that you can do all of that, I know. But let me tell you this. First of all, you are entitled to make profit. I should have that as like my tagline or something like that. Now, yes, I want you to remember that you are entitled to make profit. Maybe that could be my sign-off for my podcast or something. I don't know. But you are entitled. But remember that the agent will not work with greedy buyers, or they won't want to work with greedy buyers. And that's a fair point, right? You won't want to work with idiots, would you? In your job or your life, you don't want to deal with greedy, selfish, arrogant, ignorant people. And agents are just human beings too, believe it or not. I know it's mental, isn't it? Some people think that agents are some sort of crazy alien monsters, but they're not. They're real people. So we treat them as such. Now, they won't want to work with greedy people, so don't be greedy, because then they just won't work with you if you are. And there is a big difference between making a profit, which remember you're entitled to do, and you should always try and do, but there's a big difference between making a profit and trying to rip someone off and trying to be too greedy. So, when you set your offer, set your targets, remember, set your yield, set your target return on investment, ROI, set that at the beginning and don't deviate from it. That is your target. You will not change. And if you don't change, you'll make profit, but stick to it. Tip number 4, and remember this is my little phrase. You've heard me say it many times before, but it's just a pile of bricks. There's another pile of bricks down the road. So don't get hung up on this one property. Don't lose sight of your return on investment or your yield targets. Certainly don't try and drag out an offer negotiation until you get to the point where you've wasted so much time that you just cost yourself a load of money. Imagine if you're being paid £50 an hour in your normal job, but you've wasted 2 or 3 hours on this offer, just haggling, let it go. If you're not going to get it for the price that you want it, let it go. Move on to the next. It's just a pile of bricks. There's another pile of bricks down the road. Tip number 5, again, slightly obvious, but let me explain. Be available and be willing for the agent, right? And this goes all the way back to the initial interactions that you have with an estate agent. Make sure that you always answer your phone. Always. Because think about it, right? If I said to you, I'm going to give you 25 grand. Every time I ring you, you are answering your phone, right? That's a given. So the estate agent's no different. They've got that vehicle which is going to provide you with profit. So therefore, if they call you, you answer. Please answer. Answer to emails. Even if you send them an email back saying, hey, thanks for the email, I'll give you a shout this afternoon. Or thanks for the email, I'll be able to get back to you at this time. Be available, be willing. And it's also, this applies actually, going off topic slightly, this applies back, hi Shelley, this applies back to when you're first starting to view properties too. Because think about it, if you're the person that's always available to go and view properties, always available to give feedback, always available to jump just like that, and if the agent says, hey, I've got this property coming on, can you get out and see it today or within the hour? And you say yes, and you keep saying yes, and you go and do more and more viewings, the agent's just going to want to work with you more and more and more, I promise you. So tip number 6 is do not argue with estate agents. Do not argue with estate agents. That's one of the biggest things you could possibly get wrong, is arguing with estate agents. Now, look, everyone for some reason has this terrible conception of estate agents, but let me promise you that actually 99% of estate agents are very good, very decent people and businesses, right? They just want to sell houses. They just want to get their job done, get the money in the bank and move on. That's what they want to do. But unfortunately, there are the 1% of estate agents that are absolute idiots, and they spoil it for the rest of us, and they don't even know who they are. They think they're just getting on with life, but they'll get caught out soon enough. So don't argue with them. And I want you to think about this slightly deeper. If you argue with an estate agent's valuation, with their estimates, with their forecasts, if you argue with them, then they're less likely to want to come to you with more stuff, right? They're less likely to want to work with you, because the mindset of anybody, whether you're an estate agent or a taxi driver or a bin man or whatever, the mindset is, oh, I don't want to talk to that person. They just constantly argue with me, make me feel like sugar puffs. They just make me feel rubbish. So I don't want to work with them. And that's the same for an estate agent. Remember, they're just people. They're just people. So if you argue with valuations and estimates and forecasts and opinions and things like that, then you're less likely to get deals done. You're less likely to get offers accepted, and you're less likely to get them calling you with more deals. But there's slightly more to it than that as well. Now, you might well have a different opinion to the estate agent. You might disagree with their valuation. That's fine. It doesn't matter, because you've got your valuation and they've got theirs. But you are the one making the offer, so you don't need to argue. If that estate agent says once you've done the job there, that property's going to be worth 200,000, and you know it's worth 160. Okay? Thank you very much for your opinion, Mr. and Mrs. Estate Agent. Great. My offer is this. Because their valuation doesn't change your offer, right? Because you've done your due diligence. And check out my podcast on due diligence. So you can agree with the estate agent and share your thoughts openly, right? And that's good for the estate agent. Make them feel welcome and wanted. And then negotiate. Agree with the agent and then negotiate. Make them part of your goal. Make them on your side. They want to work with you because, hey, this guy agrees with me. This guy gets me. Tip number 7, did I mention don't be greedy? I think I did. Don't be greedy. So that's a repeat. Tip number 8, remember, the agent doesn't work for you, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, so they will want to get the top price for their customer. Think about it. If all sellers, well, yeah, actually it's true, isn't it? The seller is the client, right? So if all sellers write great reviews about their agent saying they got me a top price, they got me a great price, really happy with my agent, then awesome, right? More sellers are going to want to come to that agent. But If loads of buyers write loads of reviews saying this agent knocked 20 grand off the purchase price for me, this agent haggled the crap out of that seller to get them beaten down as low as possible for me to buy that property cheap, then they're less likely. Makes sense, right? Of course it does. So the agent wants to get their reviews and their feedback and their pay from the seller. They want to get more sellers, so they've got to do the right job for them. Tip number 9, be open from the start. Be trustworthy and honest. I think that's the best way to be. Because if you don't lie, you can never get found out. If you don't lie, you can never get found out. That should be another little tagline. I'll put that somewhere, I promise. That's an obvious one. I don't need to explain that anymore, right? Be open and honest from the start. You're an investor. You're here to make profit. These are the property deals that you're looking for. And I'll make you an offer. I promise I'll make you an offer. I'll be open and honest with you and I'll share my workings and blah, 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 blah. But be open and honest from the start. Please promise me you'll do that. And by the way, all this is coming from my 20 odd years of experience in property from an estate agent's perspective. And I've trained teams. I've been the sales negotiator. I've been the little viewings guy who runs around selling houses. I've owned an estate agent. I've trained teams. I've trained property investors to make offers, calculate offers and find deals. So I know all about this from all angles. Tip number 10, be ready with your proof of funds. Be ready. At the moment, there's a big buzz around agents collecting proof of funds from buyers before they go and view a property. That's good because it means that the agent only works with good buyers. So have that stuff ready. Have proof of funds ready, have solicitor's information ready, the solicitor you're going to use, have that ready. You don't need to pay any money to a solicitor just to know which solicitor you're going to use. Here's a quick side tip. Always allow a conversation to happen between you and the estate agent's solicitor. Tell them I would be open to a conversation with your solicitor. You'll be more likely to get favour and help and support from the agent if you are going to work with their solicitor, or you at least give their solicitor an opportunity to present their services to you. Be ready with your identification. Normally people need a verified proof of ID and a proof of address. And also, if you're going to buy with a mortgage, get a decision in principle. You don't have to have a specific figure as such. Go to your mortgage advisor or give me a shout. You can work with my mortgage advisor if you need to. But go to your mortgage advisor and say, I need a decision in principle. I'm going to view this property. It's £200,000 and this is the address, right? He'll give you that and then you'll have a decision in principle. Tip number 11, and the last tip I'm going to give you is remember that the agent owes you nothing. I'm going to let that sink in for a second. The agent owes you nothing. You don't pay the agent. You are not the customer. You are almost nothing, but you can make yourself something if you follow these tips. And look, there's so much more that I can tell you, so much more to give you that I can't really do in a live. So I am actually going to start doing some live events that you can join on Facebook. So I'll send out invites. And if you're interested in joining my live events, there's going to be one for property investment for beginners, one for finding property deals, one for buying property and investing in property with no money, one for the legal side for landlords and lettings, one for all the legal stuff there. So if you want to be raising finance, that's another one. So I'm going to be doing these live events very soon. So if you want to be part of those live events, you could just chuck a comment below or send me a message through my Facebook page or email me at tom@pinkstreet.co.uk. But yeah, so all of those live events, now I can host live events on Facebook. That means I'm going to start presenting these courses. They're going to be invite only because I don't like having these mass training courses. I don't like them. I like to have smaller courses so that we can all interact and talk and share and learn. You know, I still learn from investors. I learn from beginning investors because they make mistakes, I make mistakes, and we all learn from those too. So anyway, live events on Facebook. If you want to be part of those, then drop a comment below. Just stick it your name or whatever. Just say, hey, Tom, yeah, I want to join you. Or send me an email or send me a message. But until then, I hope those tips help. And I think you might get more offers accepted if you follow these. And I'm just going to quickly recap. Tip number 1, start with the most important there. Share your calculations. Tip number 2, think of all of this from the agent's side. Put yourself in their shoes. Give them something to negotiate with. Tip number 3, don't be greedy. Be fair and profitable. Tip number 4 is just a pile of bricks. There's another pile of bricks down the road. Yay, I love that one. Tip number 5, be available and be willing all the time. Always answer your phone. Tip number 6, don't argue with the estate agent. That's a big one. That's a huge one. You don't need to. Your offer is your offer, whether you argue with the agent or not. Tip number 7, did I mention be greedy? That's a fake one, really. Tip number 8, remember the agent works for the seller and they want to get the top price, but you want to get the bottom price. Tip number 9, be open from the start. Be trustworthy and honest, and if you don't lie, you can't get found out. Tip number 10, be ready with your proof of funds, your ID, your solicitor's info, and your decision in principle, all of that stuff. Tip number 11, remember the agent owes you nothing. Earn the agent's trust. And I'm just going to throw a tip number 12 in here, right? I do all of this for nothing. I don't get paid for this, right? This is just me having fun, sharing all my knowledge and hoping somewhere down the line that some landlords and property investors achieve some sort of success from what I'm sharing. Now, along the way, if I pick up some customers, then great. Because, I've got a letting agent, I've got an estate agent, I've got a mortgage company, I do a little bit of property investor mentoring, but I keep that small. I don't really like I said earlier, I don't really like dealing with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people like that. I like to be able to interact and get to know the investors that I work with. So I'm not taking on any new investors at the moment. So I've got my little group where we all mentor and we talk and we discuss deals and we share deals and all that. So I'll keep that as it is. But I also source properties as well. And again, I'm not taking any more investors on for that at the moment. But I do those things. So if you ever want to be part of that in the future, just let me know. And as soon as an opening comes up, then I'll let you know. But like I said, I tend not to deal with everybody. I'm not one of those, massive training companies or big mentoring companies or whatever that just take on anybody and anybody. I tend to keep that quite small. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. I've waffled on and Luke is probably waiting. But remember, all of those tips will help you increase your chances of getting offers accepted. And until then, thank you very much for watching. And remember, this is just one thing, right? This is just one aspect. And if you want to be the best version of yourself at one thing, then you need to be the best version of yourself at everything. And my name's Tom Soane, and guess what? This is the Anonymous Landlord.